What's going on, everybody? It's time for a Patron review from Justin Smith, who asked me to do Waxwork. I got the Vestron thing here with 1 and 2 inside. I've seen them all before, 1 and 2 last year, and I was not a big fan of part 2. I remember it being very silly, and this one's silly too, but kind of like Gremlins 1 to 2. The director in the second one decides to just ramp up the humor, and it just didn't work for me in part 2. But I'm not sure if I'll review that one anytime soon. But unless Justin Smith asks me to review it next month, then maybe I will. But yeah, let's talk about the first one. I really like this one. So this one was directed by Anthony Hickox, who also does part 2, and he is the director of Hellraiser 3. I'm not familiar with anything else he's done, but those are some of the titles I recognized. And this one also stars Zach Galligan from Gremlins, which I was just talking about. And it also has Deborah Foreman from April Fool's Day, Valley Girl, and it's also got David Warner from The Omen and all kinds of movies. It's got all kinds of people in here. You also got Patrick McNee from The Howling. So you got a really good cast in here. And this movie tells a story about these high school kids. I think they're high school, maybe college kids, who go to this Waxworks that just popped up in their neighborhood out of nowhere. And when they go in, they find out that when they go past a certain point, they enter a different time period, a different world of the display that they're looking at. And when they get killed in that world, they become a part of the display. Let's go over a few of my dislikes for the movie, and these aren't really huge, but they're just some things I wish would have been done differently. First up, the fact that they're clearly not wax figures kind of defeats the whole purpose of this being a wax museum. It's a waxworks. But everybody in on these displays are actors just standing as perfectly still as they can, and there's moments where they're clearly moving, and no one seems to notice the characters. I mean, that person's clearly moving, they're breathing. Why did they do that? It would have been cooler if they actually looked like wax versions of themselves. When each victim gets killed, you actually see like a mannequin wax figure of them on display that looks very similar to them. There's something like House of Wax where it looks like them, but they actually have like a wax coat over their skin. And there is like that kind of House of Wax moment later on where they're peeling at the face, and then it looks like wax, and then you see like the skin underneath, all the bone and tissue and muscle, which was cool. But they're clearly just people. They're not wax at all. I just wish they would have done that instead. Actually make wax versions of these people. I don't really care for the characters that much. The best character to me dies first. The lead character of Mark, played by Zach Galligan, and the other character, Sarah, played by Deborah Foreman, they just seem like they're friends because they're friends, or their lovers are friends. I think Deborah Foreman has a crush on Zach's character, but they don't really do much with that in this movie. Like, they don't really have much chemistry together. I also didn't care for the fact that they chose to go to the lame 17th century or whatever century sadist guys time period. That whole segment just isn't interesting to me. Like, when you see all the other segments, it makes it even more disappointing. You're like, oh man, why didn't they just go to this display instead? Like the creature that's like a plant monster, or the evil baby. I would have liked to see that. Like, there's all these other displays that they show you where I guess other people already died, and once one person gets killed in this display, that display can never be used again. I wish we could have seen some of those. You can make a prequel to this movie and show those other displays actually get used. But I just wish they would have used one of those instead of this weird pirate-looking guy with the bandana and the sword, and he's like whipping people. Like, I didn't care for that segment because all the other segments are so strong that that one really stands out as a weak one that just isn't interesting or remotely entertaining. But the positives for this movie, the things I really like, the opening scene has a brutal kill with a fireplace, and then it cuts right to the title card. Cool 80s title card. I always talk about them, where the title card pops up and it's like wax melting. Very fitting for the title. And this movie has effects done by Bob Keane, who worked on Hellraiser, and these effects are the star of the show. Not just the concept also, which I'll get to, but the effects. Like, there was lots of good effects. I wish there was more in that cool, chaotic third act, but in the first 2/3, there's plenty of good, gory, mean kills, head squashes, a werewolf transformation that gets cut kind of short. And then there's people getting ripped in half. There's blood and gore. There's a cool vampire scene. So there's lots of good effects in here. So, heads getting ripped off. It's great. Great stuff. So if you're looking for some good gore and lots of special effects, then you're going to get that in this. But yeah, the concept, I really like it because we get to see all these different monsters and creatures that we're familiar with all in one movie. And at this point, I don't think that was a common thing. You know, kind of like the Monster Squad, where you had all the Universal monsters together. In this one, we got like, you know, vampires and werewolves and zombies and plant monsters and this and that. It's just mummies. I love that. I love this concept where you enter different like time periods and different like dimensions, I guess, just different worlds. And when you die there, you become a part of the show, the display. And it just, this concept is unique to me and very entertaining. I like it. It's wild, and I enjoy that. And I like the cast, all the people I mentioned earlier. I like seeing them. And I like the villain's motivation at the end, because it's not really much of one. He doesn't give this big speech about why. It's just, why not? That's basically the motivation. It's like, why do you want to destroy the world? Somebody's got to do it. So, I love that. And the chaotic third act, really like that, when all hell breaks loose, all the displays are coming alive, and you get to see all these monsters and creatures attacking, kind of like the end of Cabin in the Woods. You know, all the doors open, just hell breaks loose. It's not that level of like violence, but I wish, but it's still fun, still entertaining. Could have been done better, but I like it. So final thoughts. I think this is an enjoyable, very fun movie to watch once a year with your friends or by yourself. It's just very entertaining to me. Like the concept, the cast, some of the effects, lots of them sprinkled throughout. Just wish some things could have been done a little bit better. The character writing, maybe this character should have survived, not this one, you know, stuff like that. But overall, still an enjoyable movie. So when it comes to Waxwork, the first movie, definitely consider getting the Blu-ray by Vestron. Go out and buy it. Spoiler discussion. Alright, so this movie opens up with a very mean kill. This guy's getting robbed and his head gets pushed into a fireplace and his whole head's on fire. So that was pretty brutal. What a cool way to open up a movie. And then that awesome title card, Waxwork, and it all starts to melt. And then they bump into David Warner's character. I think his name's Lincoln. And they don't seem to be fazed by the fact that he's pulling some Houdini shit. Like, he's just disappearing. And they're just like, ooh, scary. It's like, this guy clearly just appeared and disappeared twice. And they're just like, whatever. Like, and there's a lot of that in this movie where people just don't seem to really be all that confused or shocked by what's going on. They just kind of chalk it up to, I must just be seeing things, or I'm dreaming, I'm on drugs. Even though I definitely did not take drugs and there's no way I'm sleeping. You know, it's just stupid. This guy says his name is Mr. Mister, just like the band, right? And the teacher at their local high school or college is clearly a Nazi supporter. He's even doing like the salute, and he's teaching a class about World War II and stuff. I like that the workers at this place are a giant and a little person, and just seeing them stand next to each other, that juxtaposition it's pretty funny. And they say that the little person's a guy. I thought it was a girl. I mean, yeah, he's wearing like a tuxedo, which I guess a girl wouldn't wear, but the voice is so high, I legit thought it was a woman. But he's a guy, so my bad. But just letting you know, that's what I thought. Am I alone on that? I thought he was a girl for some reason. Whatever. But yeah, so the best character in this movie, Tony, when he goes through the portal to the werewolf story that unfolds here, he thinks he's like on acid. I like how like he's trying to explain it all to himself. He's like a skeptic. He's like trying to find logic in what's going on. Like, I have to be on acid. But then he's like, well, wait, I didn't take anything. I didn't drink anything. So then he's like, I just must be hypnotized. Somebody hypnotized me. And then the werewolf transformation starts, and then these other two come in, and this guy gets freaking ripped in half, like his head's being squeezed, and all his blood's just oozing out, and then his head and chest are just being ripped in half. It was awesome. Very good stuff there. And then the other girl, China, she goes into like the vampire realm, and she doesn't really seem all that fazed by what's going on. She doesn't seem confused. Later on, a few minutes later, after the whole dinner scene, she's like, this must be a dream. But that should have been like the first thing she said, because I was just thinking the whole time, like, dude, why? Like, she's actually eating this bloody meat in front of her. She doesn't even know what it is. She calls it something like steak tartare. But it's like she doesn't really seem all that confused by what's going on, but she just chalks it up to, oh, I'm dreaming. But when would you ever have time to sleep? What, you thought you just fell asleep standing up, walking around a Waxworks place? I don't. That she's just a skeptic. She doesn't believe that what she's seeing is real. She doesn't want to believe it. And then the vampires start attacking her in the basement. This guy's leg is chewed down to the bone. That's what they were eating at the dinner table, I guess. And the scene's just funny because this rat's like eating at his leg too, but the guy like jumps and lands on his leg. He's just in so much pain. This guy is being put through so much anguish and pain in that scene. And the vampire gets killed with 2 knives pressed to his head. Like, just because she puts 2 knives together to form like a cross, that's good enough. It counts as a crucifix and it kills him. Really? That's just silly. Like, that's just dumb. But whatever. But his head like explodes, so that was awesome. And then these other vampire chicks, they come down and she like pushes one into like wine bottles. All the wine bottles like actually penetrate her skin and go all the way through, and then like the corks pop off and like wine is shooting out of her body. That was great. This is the best scene in the movie. And then I guess she gets hypnotized. There's, I guess, hypnotizing powers in this place on every display that seems to draw them in. But she gets hypnotized by the vampire who like bites her neck and kills her, and she becomes a part of that display. And then like this throwaway scene, it's not really needed. Like the jock boyfriend, I guess like her current boyfriend, the guy she just banged the previous night, he's like calling around. He finds out where she's at. He breaks in after hours. He's so desperate to see her again. Maybe he thinks he can get his dick wet once more. I don't know. But he breaks in there and gets killed instantly. And it's a complete like off-camera kill. I think he gets killed by the Phantom of the Opera. But that could have been another segment. That, I mean, you don't have to do like a whole 5-minute segment. It could have been like a minute or even just 30 seconds. Just show him in that world very briefly. Maybe just have a couple lines of dialogue. He bumps into the Phantom, and then you could have inserted one more cool kill there. But instead, he gets pushed in by the owner there at the Waxworks. He gets pushed in there, and it just shows him automatically dead on display, as he's dressed like a cop. So I assume he got shot or stabbed, or I don't know how he died, but that was just lame. You know, that it's just a throwaway scene, throwaway character. It didn't really need to be there at all, really. But then we get like a kind of typical skeptical cop who's just a little too mean to this kid who's genuinely like concerned and trying to file a report about missing people and shit. And there are like quite a few missing people's cases in this area recently. You should be taking that shit seriously. But he just acts like he's a thorn in his side. Like, oh, stop bothering me. Stop giving me work, basically. But he at least goes to the place, takes him serious enough, I guess, but he's being an asshole to him the entire time. When he gets there, he gets like pushed into the mummy exhibit, and the mummy comes alive and squashes this guy's head like a bug, and then they get thrown into the tomb and basically have to suffocate in there. So that's a worse fate than what the other guys got. And because that cop dies, this other cop comes by to find out what's going on, and he just gets his neck snapped, and for some reason there's blood coming out of his mouth. Like, just because you got your neck snapped doesn't mean blood's just going to start pouring out of your mouth. Like, what the hell? What the hell caused that? Is that medically accurate? I doubt it. So then Sarah, she gets hypnotized and goes into the one display where she's like in the 17th century, like New England castle, and this like sadist is there with a whip, and she seems to really be getting off on it, getting whipped, like to the point that she's on the brink of death, and she's like, "Do it again, Johnny! Like, just keep hitting me." Was she always a masochist, like deep down inside, and this it's just coming out now, or is it just this power it has over her that's making her a masochist? Was she always one, or is she just one now? I'm not sure. I don't really know her character that well. Like I said, the characters in this movie aren't really all that well fleshed out. And kind of like in Nightmare on Elm Street, it's the whole if you're not afraid of it, it can't hurt you. So when he's like swiping at him with the sword, it just goes right through him. It doesn't hurt him at all. That kind of is cliche, but it's whatever. And then we get the cool zombie segment. I wish this would have lasted maybe just an extra minute or so, because it was really cool. I love the decision to shoot it all in black and white, or maybe they did it in post, but it looks pretty cool. It looks like you're watching like Night of the Living Dead, and the zombies are coming out. The zombies look pretty cool. The effects on them, the makeup. He grabs the rock. He like severs the hand of a zombie that's grabbing him. It looks awesome, this segment. I wish it would have just stretched out a little bit more. And then two of their friends come by because this place needs 2 more victims to like fulfill the prophecy or whatever. They got to meet this quota. If they kill X amount of people, all displays will come to life and enter the real world. They won't be confined to just these little displays in the Waxworks. So they invite their 2 friends from earlier in the movie to come by, and they just get killed instantly. One of them gets killed by the sadist dude, and the other one gets killed by the zombies. So yeah. So then this is when all the displays come to life. Hell is breaking loose, and no matter how many times Mark is stabbing people with this sword, it never has blood on it. I noticed that. That was a little lazy. Come on, just throw some blood on there. Have some continuity here with the scenes. He stabbed quite a few people, and every time I see the sword, it's completely stainless. I love when they grab that bat. The vampire turns into a bat, and they just grab it and point like a freaking revolver to its face, and you can hear the bat, I think, say, or somebody else is saying it, but maybe it was the bat. I think it's funnier if it's the bat. But somebody says, "Make my day," and blows the bat's fucking head off. That was awesome. And then the guy in the wheelchair, he gets his head completely ripped off by the werewolf. That was pretty cool. And Lincoln, the owner of this place, his gun, what the fuck is that? He has like this handgun that looks like a ray gun. It looks like some sci-fi shit. I don't know what the hell that is. Why does he have such a bizarre looking futuristic gun? And so yeah, he like falls into the wax, and he comes back for one last scare. Typical stuff here, but whatever. And his motivation before he died was, why not, basically. He's like, why are you wanting to end the world? And he's like, well, somebody's got to do it. And so then they burn the house down, and there's a bad shot of it. There's one shot where it's clearly it's a miniature, and then there's another shot where you got the 2 characters in the foreground and the house in the background. It looks like it's like a green screen or some kind of visual effect. It looks off. I can't really describe it well, but it didn't look good. But it doesn't hurt the movie. And then we find out that the only survivor of the house is the severed hand from the zombie segment that continues into part 2. That's how part 2 opens up, with the severed hand. And those are my thoughts on Waxwork. What did you think about this classic? Let me know in the comments below. Do you like Waxwork 2 better? Let me know what you thought about that movie also. And thank you so much, Justin Smith, for donating to my Patreon. And as always, if you like what you've seen here, you can hit this like button and become a subscriber today just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And until next time, Auf Wiedersehen.